The Supreme Controller's distress signal had traveled across the galaxy faster than light, and the Empire's response was swift and terrible. Three massive warships appeared from hyperspace, near Earth's moon, each one twice the size of the first ship. That had been destroyed. Admiral Ji-hoon watched the new alien vessels from his command center deep under the mountains of Korea. He had been waiting for this moment his entire career, and now the time had come to reveal Earth's greatest secret. The new alien commander was General Krathon, a warrior who had conquered dozens of worlds for the Empire. He was larger than the Supreme Controller, with thick armor that seemed to be part of his body and weapons built into his arms that could fire energy beams. These humans have embarrassed the Empire, he told his officers as he studied the wreckage of the first ship. They destroyed our vessel with insects and tricks, but they will not trick us again. The three new ships moved into attack formation around Earth and began charging their main weapons. These were not the small guns they had planned to use for occupation. These were planet killers that could crack worlds in half and turn oceans into steam. On the defense station, Lieutenant Sujin watched her instruments with growing fear. "Sir, the alien ships are powering up weapons that could destroy our entire planet," she reported to Commander Hyun-woo. But Hyun-woo was not afraid because he knew something the aliens did not know. He opened a secure communication channel to Admiral Ji-hoon and spoke the words that would change everything. "This is Commander Hyun-woo requesting activation of Defense Protocol 9 deep under the mountains of Korea." Admiral Ji-hoon entered a code that he had memorized 20 years ago, but had never used. The code activated systems that had been hidden from the world for decades and began a process that would reveal Earth's true power. All across the planet, the ground began to open like a flower blooming in spring. What emerged defied everything the aliens thought they knew about human technology. Massive cannons the size of skyscrapers rose from fake mountains and hidden valleys. The cannons had been disguised as natural features for so long that even many humans had forgotten they were there. What looked like Mount Baekdu in Korea was actually a fusion-powered weapon that could punch holes through moons. What appeared to be a peaceful valley in Switzerland contained a cannon that could fire across solar systems. Young engineer, so he sat in her control bunker, watching as the weapon she had spent 5 years building finally revealed itself. The cannon was beautiful and terrible at the same time, with smooth curves that made it look almost alive. The aliens had studied Earth for months before their invasion. They had seen human cities and human technology and human space stations. They thought they understood human capabilities, but they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. Hidden weapons had been built in secret over 50 years using technology that Earth had developed in underground laboratories. Scientists had worked their entire careers on projects they could never talk about, creating weapons that could defend their world from threats. Among the stars, General Krathon watched in growing alarm as the Earth's surface opened to reveal dozens of massive cannons. Each one was pointed directly at his fleet, and energy readings showed that they were more powerful than anything in the Empire's arsenal. "What are those weapons?" he demanded from his scientists. His chief scientist, a creature with a computer for a brain, studied the readings with confusion. "Sir, these weapons use technology we do not understand. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." The hidden cannons fired simultaneously, and the beams of energy that emerged were not like normal weapons. They were focused streams of pure power that could cut through anything in their path. The aliens' shields, which had been designed to stop conventional weapons, offered no protection, so he watched from her bunker as her cannon fired its first shot in 50 years. The beam traveled across space at the speed of light and struck the alien ship exactly where she had aimed it. The ship's shields flared and died, and the hull began to glow white hot all around Earth. The other cannons were firing too, and the alien fleet found itself under attack from weapons they could not understand or defend against. The ships that had seemed so powerful just moments before were now burning and breaking apart. General Krathon felt his ship shaking as the human weapons tore through its armor. He had conquered worlds with these vessels, but now they were being destroyed by a species he had thought was primitive. "Retreat," he ordered, but it was too late. The human weapons were too accurate and too powerful. His ships were dying around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it on Earth. People in the cities looked up at the sky and saw flashes of light as the battle raged above them. Many of them were seeing their planet's true defenses for the first time, and they felt a mixture of pride and fear. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had thought Earth was defenseless because humans had hidden their strength. They had seen only what they expected to see, and now they were paying the price for their arrogance. But even as his ships burned around him, General Krathon managed to send one final message across the galaxy. It was a warning to the Empire that Earth was not what it seemed, and that the humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The message also contained detailed scans of the human weapons and tactical data that would help the Empire prepare for the next attack. Because General Krathon knew that the Empire would not give up after losing just 4 ships. Admiral Ji-hoon watched as the alien fleet was destroyed. But he felt no joy in the victory. He knew that this was just the beginning of a much longer war. The Empire had thousands of ships, and they would not underestimate humanity again. The hidden weapons began to retract back into their concealed positions, and the Earth's surface closed over them once more. In a few hours it would look like nothing had happened, but the galaxy would never be. The same humanity had revealed that they were not the primitive species the Empire had thought they were. They had weapons that could destroy fleets and the will to use them when threatened. The war for Earth had entered a new phase, and both sides knew that the real battle was yet to come. General Krathon's final message had reached the heart of the Galactic Empire, and the response was swift and overwhelming. Within hours of receiving the distress signal, the Empire mobilized its greatest war fleet. 50 massive ships emerged from hyperspace around Earth, completely surrounding the planet. The new alien commander was Fleet Admiral Vextar, a being who had never lost a battle in 300 years of warfare. He was ancient even by alien standards, with cybernetic implants that enhanced his already formidable intelligence. His ships were the newest and most powerful in the Empire's arsenal. These humans have killed too many of our people, Vextar told his war council as he studied the tactical data from the previous battles. They must be crushed completely so that no other species will dare to resist the Empire. But Captain Tae-hyun was ready for them. He commanded Earth's space defense fleet from his flagship hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. His ships looked small and primitive compared to the alien vessels, but they carried secrets that even Admiral Ji-hoon did not fully understand. The battle began when the aliens decided to destroy Earth's moonbase. They expected to find a small research station with minimal defenses. Instead, they found Lieutenant Jun-sik and his team of soldiers who had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. The alien assault ships landed on the moon's surface expecting easy victory, but they immediately came under fire from weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. The human soldiers wore armor that made them move faster than any living being should be able to move. Jun-sik led his squad through the lunar tunnels, using passages that had been carved decades ago specifically for this kind of warfare. The aliens followed with their advanced sensors and superior numbers, but they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any logical patterns. Every crater on the moon's surface hid weapons that emerged from hidden positions. The aliens' maps showed them nothing because the humans had built their defenses using technology that could not be detected by conventional scanning methods. Dr. Yujin watched the battle from her command post on Earth. She had designed the moon's defense systems using principles that most scientists thought were impossible. Her weapons used gravity waves and quantum fluctuations to create barriers that could stop anything. The alien soldiers were trained to fight in formation using tactics that had worked on 1,000 worlds. But the humans fought like individuals who could read each other's minds. They moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually perfectly coordinated. When the aliens tried to use their heavy weapons against the human positions, they found that the weapons simply would not work. The humans had deployed field generators that could disrupt energy weapons and make them useless. Jun-sik and his team moved through the battle like ghosts, appearing wherever the aliens least expected them. They used the moon's low gravity to leap impossible distances and strike from angles that should have been impossible. The alien commander on the moon could not understand what was happening. His soldiers were being defeated by an enemy that seemed to ignore the basic rules of warfare every time. He thought he had the humans trapped. They would disappear and attack from somewhere else, sir. We are losing ground, his lieutenant reported. The human weapons are unlike anything we have encountered. Before then, use the orbital bombardment. The commander ordered destroy the entire moon if necessary. But when the alien ships tried to fire on the moon's surface, they found that their weapons were being deflected by shields that appeared to be made of pure energy. The humans had turned the entire moon into a fortress that could not be broken back on Earth. Admiral Ji-hoon was coordinating the defense from his underground command center. He watched as the alien fleet tried to break through the moon's defenses and failed repeatedly. The humans were fighting with a desperation that the aliens had never encountered. Before Captain Tae Hyon brought his space fleet out of hiding and attacked, the alien ships from behind his vessels moved in ways that defied physics, using engines that could bend space and time. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear and disappear at will. The human fighters were smaller than the alien ships, but they worked together like a single organism. Each pilot knew exactly what the others were doing. Without needing to communicate, they moved in patterns that looked like a dance but were actually deadly combat maneuvers. Pilot Woo-jin led his squadron against the alien flagship using tactics that his grandfather had taught him based on ancient Korean martial arts. The aliens expected him to attack in straight lines, but instead he moved in curves and spirals that confused their targeting systems. The alien fleet was larger and more powerful than the human forces, but they were fighting an enemy that refused to behave according to their understanding of warfare. The humans took risks that no sane species would take, and somehow made them work. Admiral Vexstar watched in growing frustration as his perfect battle plans fell apart. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered before. They seemed to thrive on chaos and uncertainty on the moon. Lieutenant Jun-sik and his team had turned the alien landing into a disaster. The alien soldiers were retreating to their ships, but they found that the humans had sabotaged their landing craft, using methods that the aliens could not detect. The human soldiers did not just fight, they improvised and adapted to every situation. They used weapons in ways that violated their design specifications and somehow made them more effective. They turned the aliens' own technology against them. Dr. Yu-jin smiled as she watched her defensive systems work perfectly. The aliens had expected to fight a conventional war, but the humans had prepared for something completely different. They had built weapons that could think and shields that could learn. The battle for the moon lasted 3 days, and when it was over, the alien invasion force had been completely destroyed. The humans had lost many brave soldiers, but they had proven that Earth could not be conquered by conventional means. Admiral Vexstar was forced to retreat with what remained of his fleet, but he sent a final message to the Empire High Command. The humans were not just another primitive species, they were something far more dangerous. The message contained detailed scans and tactical analysis that would help the Empire prepare for the next phase of the war, but it also contained a warning that this enemy was unlike anything they had faced before on Earth. The victory celebration was brief because everyone knew that the Empire would return with even more ships and better weapons. The humans had revealed more of their capabilities, and now the aliens would be prepared for them. But Admiral Ji-hoon was not worried because he knew that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, it was their ability to adapt and overcome any challenge. The Empire might have more ships, but humans had something that could not be measured or counted. The war for Earth was far from over, but humanity had proven that they would not surrender without a fight that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something that had been sleeping for months began to wake up. Dr. Na-young sat in her underwater laboratory watching screens that showed the ocean floor around her. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Ever since she first proposed the Swarm project to Earth Defense Command, the Swarm was her greatest creation, millions of tiny robots, each one smaller than a grain of rice but connected together by quantum communication links that worked faster than light itself. Each robot carried a small explosive charge and an artificial intelligence that could think and learn and adapt to any situation. For months, the Swarm had been resting on the ocean floor, spread out across thousands of square kilometers, waiting for the activation signal when Commander Hyun-woo sent the code from his defense station. The robots began to move like a giant sleeping creature opening its Isna young. Watched her screens as the first wave of robots left the ocean floor and began swimming upward toward the surface. The water around them glowed with a soft blue light as their quantum communication systems activated, and they began talking to each other in a language made of pure mathematics on the alien ship high. Above Earth, the Supreme Controller was preparing his invasion force. He had returned to his vessel angry and insulted that primitive humans had dared to threaten the mighty Galactic Empire. His soldiers, tall gray creatures with thick armor and energy weapons, were loading into transport ships ready to descend to Earth and crush all resistance. The Supreme Controller stood in his command center, surrounded by screens showing Earth below. He could see the human cities with their lights twinkling like stars, and he imagined how they would look when his forces were finished with them. "Your orders, sir?" asked his second in command. A nervous creature with multiple eyes and tentacles for arms. "Destroy their military installations first," the Supreme Controller said, "then move to the population centers. I want them to understand the price of defying the Empire." But as his soldiers prepared for battle, the ship's sensors began detecting something strange. Small impacts were hitting the hull of the massive vessel. At first, the aliens thought it was just space debris or perhaps small meteors, but the impacts became more and more frequent. "What is happening?" the Supreme Controller demanded as alarms began sounding throughout the ship. His chief scientist, a creature with 6 legs and a head covered in sensor organs, studied the readings with growing confusion. "Sir, we are being attacked by something very small, millions of very small things." The swarm had reached the alien ship after climbing up from Earth's oceans and flying through space using tiny rocket engines. Each robot was so small that the alien sensors could barely detect them, but together they formed a cloud of destruction that surrounded the enemy. Vasalna Young watched from her underwater laboratory as her creations spread across the alien ship like a living thing. Each robot knew exactly what to do, because they shared a collective intelligence that could process information faster than any biological brain. The robots began looking for weak points in the ship's armor, and they found them quickly. The aliens had built their vessel to withstand attacks from other spaceships with large weapons, but they had never considered an enemy that could find the tiny gaps between armor plates on the alien ship. Panic was spreading through the crew. The Supreme Controller watched his screens as thousands of small explosions began appearing all over the hull. Each explosion was tiny, but they were happening so fast and in so many places that the ship's repair systems could not keep up. "Our weapons cannot target them," his weapons officer reported. "The targets are too small and there are too many of them." "Then use area effect weapons," the Supreme Controller ordered. "Destroy them all at once." But when the aliens fired their plasma cannons into the cloud of robots, the weapons passed right through without hitting anything. The robots were too small and too spread out for the big guns to be effective down on Earth. Lieutenant Dongmin was tracking the battle from his sensor station. He watched as the alien ship tried different weapons against the swarm, but nothing worked. "The robots were like a swarm of angry bees that could not be stopped, sir," he reported. "To Commander Hyan Wu, the alien ship is trying to retreat, but the swarm is following." Themna Young smiled as she watched her robots work. They were designed to be persistent, and they would not give up until their mission was complete. The aliens could run, but they could not hide from millions of tiny hunters that could follow them anywhere. The Supreme Controller realized that his mighty warship was being destroyed by enemies he could not even see properly. The robots were eating through the hull like acid, and his crew was running in panic through the corridors. "Abandon ship," he ordered, but it was too late. The swarm had already damaged the escape pods and shuttle bays. The aliens were trapped on their own vessel as it slowly fell apart around them. The ship's hull began to crack and atmosphere leaked out into space. The Supreme Controller watched in horror as his perfect vessel, the pride of the Empire, was reduced to scrap metal by creatures so small he needed a microscope to see them. In her laboratory, Na Young felt a moment of sadness as she watched the alien ship break apart. She had not wanted to kill anyone, but the aliens had chosen to threaten Earth, and now they were paying the price. The first alien ship exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth's surface, but the Supreme Controller managed to send one final message before his ship was destroyed. a distress signal that traveled faster than light across the galaxy calling for help from the Empire. On Earth, Commander Hyun Woo received reports that the first enemy ship had been destroyed, but he knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would send more ships and Earth would need to be ready for a much bigger fight. Na Young began calling her robots back to Earth because she knew they would be needed again soon. The swarm had proven that human ingenuity could defeat alien technology, but the real test was yet to come. The Empire had thousands of ships and they would not make the same mistake twice. The next battle would be much harder, and Earth would need all of its hidden weapons to survive. As the debris from the alien ship fell toward Earth like shooting stars, people in the cities below looked up at the sky and wondered what was happening. Some of them were afraid, but others felt a strange pride that their world had fought back against the stars. The war for Earth had begun and humanity had won the first battle. The morning started like any other day on Earth Defense Station Alpha, but everything changed when the sensors started screaming warnings across the bridge. Commander Hyun Woo was drinking his coffee when the alarms began blaring so loud that everyone had to cover their ears. Lieutenant Soo-jin jumped from her chair at the communications console and her hands moved quickly over the controls as she tried to understand what was happening. The main screen showed empty space around the moon, but then something began to appear like a ghost becoming solid. The alien ship was huge beyond anything humans had ever built. It was over 1 kilometer long and covered in smooth purple metal that seemed to move and flow like liquid. The surface rippled and changed as they watched, making it hard to tell where the ship ended, and space began. Yun Woo set down his coffee cup and walked to the center of the bridge. His crew looked at him with worried faces, but he kept his voice calm and steady. He had trained for this moment his whole career, even though he never really believed it would happen. Sir, the object is definitely artificial. Soo-jin reported from her station. Her voice shook a little, but she kept working at sending out some kind of scanning beam that is checking our defenses. The scanning beam swept across the defense station like a bright finger touching everything. It moved slowly and carefully as if the aliens were taking notes about human technology. Hyun Woo watched the beam pass over their weapons and shields, and he wondered what the aliens were thinking on the other side of the bridge. Engineer Dongmin was studying his instruments with a frown on his face. Sir, he said quietly, their technology is far beyond ours. That ship could destroy our entire station without even trying hard. But Hyun Woo smiled a small secret smile, because he knew something that the aliens did not know. He pressed a button on his command chair and spoke into his communication device. This is Commander Hyun Woo to Earth Command Priority 1, we have contact. The response came immediately from Admiral Ji-hoon, who was deep underground in the secret command center. Understood, Commander. Are they hostile? Not yet. Hyun Woo replied, but they are definitely not here for a friendly visit. Their ship is in attack position and they are scanning all our defenses. Then the alien ship sent its first message to Earth. The transmission came through all frequencies at once, and the voice that spoke was unlike anything any human had ever heard. It sounded like breaking glass mixed with the roar of a waterfall. People of Earth, the voice said, we are the Galactic Empire, and we have come to claim your world. You have 1 solar cycle to prepare for integration into our civilization. Resistance will be met with total destruction. The message repeated 3 times in perfect English, then switched to other languages: Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, and dozens more. The aliens had been watching Earth for a long time, and they knew exactly how to talk to human. Soo-jin looked at Hyun Woo with wide eyes. Sir, what do we do? Send the response, Hyun Woo said calmly. Tell them we want to talk. Request a meeting with their commander. The reply came back within minutes. A small shuttle would come to the defense station in 1 hour. The alien commander would meet with human representatives to discuss terms of surrender. Hyun Woo chose Captain Minho to lead the diplomatic team. Minho was the best negotiator in the Earth Defense Force, and he had studied alien contact procedures for years, even though most people thought it was a waste of time. The alien shuttle arrived. It was beautiful and terrible. At the same time, it moved without any visible engines and made no sound as it docked with the station. The metal of the shuttle seemed to flow and merge with the station walls as if they were made of the same living material. The alien commander who stepped out of the shuttle was tall and thin, With 6 arms and glowing yellow eyes, he wore no visible armor, but his skin looked like it was made of the same purple metal as his ship. He introduced himself as Supreme Controller, and his voice made everyone on the bridge feel cold. Captain Minho stepped forward and bowed slightly in the way that humans showed respect. "Welcome to our station," he said. "I am Captain Minho, and I speak for Earth." The Supreme Controller looked at Minho with what might have been amusement. "Your species shows promise," he said in his glass-breaking voice. "You will serve well in our mining colonies. Your strength and stubbornness will be useful traits for hard." Labor Minho kept his face calm even though he felt anger rising in his chest. "We prefer to remain independent," he said. "Perhaps we can find another arrangement that benefits both our peoples." The alien laughed, and the sound made everyone on the bridge step backward. "Independence," he said. "You are barely out of your own solar system. We have conquered 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. You have no choice in this matter." But Minho smiled, and his smile made the Supreme Controller pause. "We warned you to leave peacefully," he said quietly. "You should have listened to our warning." The Supreme Controller's glowing eyes narrowed and focused on Minho. "Warned us," he said. "You threaten the Empire. You think your primitive weapons can stand against our power?" "No," Minho said, still smiling. "We are simply telling you what is about to happen. You have 1 hour to flee from this system. Take your ship and go back to wherever you came from." The Supreme Controller stared at Minho for a long moment, then threw back his head and laughed even louder than before. "You think you can fight us?" he said. "Your entire planet could not scratch the paint on our ship." Minho nodded politely. "Then you have nothing to fear from staying," he said. "But we have given you fair warning. What happens next is your choice." The Supreme Controller stopped laughing, and his yellow eyes grew brighter. "You dare to threaten the Empire," he said, his voice rising to a shriek. "We have weapons that can crack planets. We have soldiers who have never known defeat, and yet," Minho said calmly, "you are still here talking instead of conquering. That should tell you something about what you are really facing." The alien commander stared at Minho for another long moment, then turned and walked back to his shuttle without another word. The shuttle detached from the station and flew back to the huge alien ship on the bridge. Everyone looked at Hyun-woo and waited for orders. He checked his watch and saw that 58 minutes remained until the deadline he had been given months ago. Sir Sujin asked quietly, "What do we do now?" Hyun-woo said, "We show them why they should have listened to our warning." He pressed another button on his command chair and spoke clearly. "This is Commander Hyun-woo to all stations. Begin countdown sequence. Earth Defense Protocol 7 is now active." Deep in the oceans of Earth, something began to stir. The Empire's response to their defeats was massive and brutal. 800 warships appeared in Earth's solar system, led by Supreme War Marshal Kelger, who had never failed to conquer a world in his 500 years of service. His orders were simple: destroy humanity completely and make an example that would terrify the galaxy. But as the massive alien fleet moved toward Earth, they encountered something that changed everything about how war could be fought. The humans had stopped trying to meet the aliens in conventional battle and instead had embraced a form of warfare that was pure chaos. Pilot Wu Jin led his squadron of fighters against the alien fleet, but his ships moved in ways that made the aliens' computers crash. Trying to predict their movements, the human pilots did not follow any tactical manual. Instead, they fought like artists, creating patterns of destruction that were beautiful and terrible. The alien ships had targeting systems that could track thousands of objects at once, but they could not lock onto fighters that seemed to dance between dimensions. The humans had learned to use their ships' quantum drives not just for propulsion but to phase in and out of normal space. On the ground, Sergeant Jin A commanded a unit of soldiers defending the ruins of New Seoul. The aliens had bombed the city hoping to break human morale, but instead they had created the perfect environment for human guerrilla warfare. Every building that still stood had been turned into a fortress. Every street had become a killing ground. The humans used the rubble and debris as cover while they moved through tunnel systems that connected the entire city underground. The alien soldiers were trained to fight in open battlefields with clear lines of sight, but the humans turned every engagement into a maze where the enemy could come from any direction at any time. Jin A and her soldiers appeared like ghosts, struck hard and vanished before the aliens could respond. The aliens tried to use their advanced sensors to track the human soldiers, but they found that the humans had developed technology that could fool any detection system, the soldiers wore armor that could change its appearance and energy signature, making them invisible to alien instruments. What frustrated the aliens most was that the humans seemed to know exactly where every alien soldier was at all times while remaining completely hidden themselves. The secret was a quantum communication network that engineer Hyun had developed over 10 years of research. Hyun's quantum network connected every human soldier and pilot through instantaneous communication links that could not be intercepted or jammed. The aliens could cut off radio transmissions, but they could not stop quantum entanglement. The network allowed human forces to coordinate perfectly across the entire solar system. Every pilot knew where every other pilot was flying. Every soldier knew exactly where backup would come from. The humans fought like a single organism with billions of parts. Supreme War Marshal Kelder watched in growing confusion as his perfectly planned invasion fell apart. The humans were not fighting according to any known tactical doctrine. They seemed to make up new strategies every few minutes. His science officers told him that human weapons were violating the laws of physics. Human ships were traveling faster than light without using hyperspace drives. Human soldiers were lifting objects that should have been too heavy for their strength. The truth was that humans had been preparing for this war for much longer than the Empire realized. They had developed technology in secret that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. They had studied alien tactics and found ways to counter every advantage. Dr. Na-young had created new versions of her robot swarms that could repair themselves and learn from every battle. They no longer just attacked ships, they could infiltrate alien computer systems and turn the enemy's own weapons against them. The swarms had evolved during the fighting, becoming more intelligent and more dangerous. They could now disguise themselves as space debris or even as parts of alien ships. They were everywhere and nowhere, constantly adapting to new threats. On Earth's surface, Captain Minho led teams of engineers who were building new weapons faster than the aliens could adapt to them. The humans had discovered that they could modify their technology during battle, creating new capabilities in hours instead of years. The alien soldiers found themselves fighting an enemy that was constantly changing human weapons that fired energy beams. One day would fire gravity waves, the next human armor that deflected plasma fire would suddenly become invisible to all sensors. Lieutenant Junsik had survived the battle for the moon and now led special forces teams that could operate in any environment. His soldiers could fight in the vacuum of space or in the crushing depths of Earth's oceans. They adapted to every situation. The humans had learned to use their environment as a weapon. They could create artificial gravity wells to trap alien ships. They could manipulate electromagnetic fields to disable alien equipment. They could even use the solar wind as a propulsion system. But the most terrifying thing for the aliens was that the humans seemed to enjoy the challenge of fighting impossible odds. They did not surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they became more creative and more dangerous engineers. So he had developed weapons that could think for themselves and make tactical decisions faster than any biological brain. The weapons learned from every battle and shared their knowledge with other systems, creating an ever-evolving arsenal. Aliens tried to withdraw and regroup, but they found that the humans had predicted their movements and were waiting for them at every retreat route. The quantum communication network allowed human forces to coordinate ambush across light years of space. Supreme War Marshal Kelder realized that he was not fighting a conventional war anymore. This was something completely new, a form of warfare that used creativity and adaptation as weapons. His forces were being defeated by an enemy that refused to follow any rules. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid contained sensors or weapons. Every planet had hidden defenses that could strike without warning. The aliens found themselves fighting not just human soldiers, but the very fabric of space itself. Admiral Ji-hoon watched the battle from his command center and felt proud of what humanity had achieved. They had faced the greatest military force in the galaxy, and not only survived, but had shown that they could win. The Empire's 100-ship fleet was being destroyed, piece by piece, by an enemy that seemed to multiply and adapt with every passing hour. The humans had proven that superior technology meant nothing without the will and creativity to use it properly. As the alien fleet retreated in defeat, They sent a final message to the Empire's capital. The humans were not just another species to be conquered, they were something far more dangerous. They were a force that could change the very nature of warfare itself. The message warned that any future attack on Earth would need to be planned completely differently. The humans had shown that they could adapt to any threat and turn any disadvantage into a weapon on Earth. The celebration was more subdued this time because everyone knew that the Empire would eventually return with new tactics and new weapons, but they also knew that humanity had discovered something about itself that even they had not fully understood. The war had revealed that humans were not just good at fighting, they were good at evolving. They could change and adapt faster than any other species in the galaxy, and that made them the most dangerous enemy the Empire had ever faced. The battle for Earth had become something much larger than anyone had imagined. It had become a test of whether creativity and adaptation could triumph over overwhelming force and technology. The final battle began when the Galactic Empire decided that Earth must be destroyed completely. Supreme Emperor Zolthak himself took command of the ultimate weapon, a device that could cause stars to collapse and create black holes. The weapon had never been used before because it could destroy entire solar systems. Emperor Zolthak was the oldest and most powerful being in the galaxy. He had ruled for over 1,000 years and had never seen a species that could resist the Empire's might. But the humans had embarrassed him in front of the entire galaxy, and now he would make them pay. The star-killer weapon was mounted on a ship the size of a small moon, and it was escorted by every remaining vessel in the Empire's fleet. Over 200 warships surrounded Earth, preparing to witness the complete destruction of humanity. If we cannot rule these creatures, then no one can. Emperor Zolthak declared to his assembled commanders. Watch as their sun dies and their world becomes nothing but frozen rock drifting in space. But deep in the outer reaches of the solar system, Captain Sung-ho commanded Earth's most secret project, a ship that existed in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, the dimensional ship had been built using technology that even most humans did not know existed. The ship could phase between different layers of reality, making it invisible to normal sensors and weapons. It had taken 20 years to build, and only a handful of people knew it existed. Admiral Ji-hoon had kept it as humanity's final secret weapon. When the Empire's Starkiller began charging its weapon, Sung-ho knew that this was the moment everything had been leading to. The device would fire in minutes and Earth's sun would begin collapsing. Within hours, there would be no escape for anyone in the solar system. The dimensional ship moved through space in ways that violated every law of physics. It could travel faster than light without using hyperspace. It could pass through solid matter, and it could exist in several places at once. Emperor Zolthak watched his ultimate weapon charge with satisfaction. The energy readings were beyond anything ever recorded. The weapon would not just destroy Earth's sun, it would create a chain reaction that would eliminate several nearby star systems. But as the Starkiller reached full power, something appeared next to it that the Empire's sensors could not properly detect. The dimensional ship phased into normal space just as the weapon fired, and Sung-ho activated humanity's most incredible technology. The ship used its dimensional capabilities to redirect the Starkiller's energy back at the Empire's fleet. The weapon that was meant to destroy Earth's sun instead created an artificial black hole that began pulling in the alien ships. Emperor Zolthak watched in horror as his ultimate weapon turned against him. The black hole grew larger and more powerful, consuming his fleet ship by ship. His perfect plan to destroy humanity had become his own destruction. The dimensional ship phased out of normal space just before the black hole could affect it. Sung-ho had calculated the timing perfectly. The Empire's greatest weapon had become their greatest defeat on Earth. People looked up at the sky and saw a new star burning brighter than anything they had ever seen. The explosion was visible across the galaxy, and every species that saw it knew that something incredible had happened. The few Empire ships that escaped the black hole carried a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Earth was forbidden territory. The species that lived there was too dangerous to approach. Any ship that came within a light year of the solar system did so at their own risk. But the humans sent their own message, and it was delivered by Ambassador Hai Young, who had been chosen to speak for all of Earth. Her words were broadcast across every frequency and translated into every language in the galaxy. "We tried to warn you," she said in a voice that was calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. "We told you to flee. We gave you every opportunity to leave in peace. We never wanted this war." The message continued with words that made every alien leader reconsider their plans for expansion. "But if you come again, if you threaten our world or our people, you will find that what you saw today was just the beginning." The galaxy learned that the humans had revealed only a small fraction of their true capabilities. The Empire had seen defensive weapons, swarm robots, hidden cannons, and dimensional technology, but they had not seen what humans could do when they went on the offensive. Admiral Ji-hoon addressed the human population from his command center, telling them that the immediate threat was over, but the galaxy was now watching Earth with new eyes. Some species would want to be allies, while others would see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. The war had changed everything. Earth was no longer an unknown world on the edge of the galaxy. It was now recognized as the home of the most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. Captain Sung-ho returned his dimensional ship to its hidden base, knowing that its existence was still secret from most of the galaxy. The humans had more weapons and more technology that they had not yet revealed. Engineer Hyun expanded her quantum communication network to reach other star systems, allowing human exploration ships to stay in contact across vast distances. The network would help humanity spread throughout the galaxy. Dr. Nayoung began developing new versions of her robot swarms that could explore other worlds and establish human colonies. The robots would be humanity's ambassadors to the stars, carrying Earth's technology and Earth's values to new worlds. The Empire's survivors retreated to their capital world and began planning new strategies. But they knew that any future war with humanity would be different. The humans had proven that they could adapt to any threat and turn any weapon against its creators. Other alien species began sending messages to Earth requesting diplomatic contact. Some wanted to form alliances, while others wanted to study human technology. Many were simply curious about the species that had defeated the mighty Empire. Lieutenant Jun-sik was promoted to colonel and given command of Earth's new stellar defense force. His soldiers would protect human colonies as they spread throughout the galaxy. They would also serve as a warning to any species that might threaten human worlds. The war had revealed something about humanity that even they had not fully understood. They were not just survivors, they were explorers and innovators who could thrive in any environment and overcome any challenge. As human ships began leaving Earth to explore the galaxy, they carried a simple message to any alien species. They encountered humanity, sought peace and friendship, but they were prepared to defend themselves and their allies against any threat. The Galactic Empire had learned that some species should never be underestimated and some worlds should never be threatened. Earth had proven that creativity and determination could triumph over any force in the universe. The galaxy would never be the same because humanity had arrived, and they brought with them new ways of thinking and new possibilities for what life among the stars could become. The war for Earth was over, but the age of human expansion had just begun.